He believed himself lost eternally. Cooper and Newton combined to write a collection of hymns, which they titled Only Hymns for the town in which they both lived. And one of the hymns that Cooper wrote, I'd like to give you 3 stanzas because they speak to my experience here. God moves in a mysterious way, His wonders to perform. He plants His footsteps in the seas and rides upon the storm. Rich in unfathomable minds of never-failing skill, He treasures up His bright designs and does His Father's will. His purposes will ripen fast, maturing every hour. His purposes will ripen fast, maturing every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. God moves in a mysterious way. You may all have heard of Auntie Ethel Powers. She came to Washington, D.C. to visit with a family I was staying with. And she invited me at the end of my first year of college to come to Camp Fireside and be a counselor. I don't think she told me at that time that I would also be dishwasher and lifeguard and whatever. But I came. And in 1954, she told me in 53 there was a young girl in high school in Randolph, Massachusetts who would like to write to me like a pen pal. And so we corresponded at college through the year. Her name was Dottie Mills. And so I was up there and stood out where you have that home in the road when Auntie Ethel drove her car in.
With Dottie?
And in the car were 3 girls. And they got out and Ethel introduced me to Dottie Mills, whom I had already known by letters, but never had seen. Helen Nason and Shirley Ward. And Helen and Shirley were lovely girls, but I wasn't concerned with anyone but that. I'll show you. This is Dottie's 1954 picture from high school graduation. 1954, when just before we first met out here. And this is Dottie here 1 week or 2 weeks before she died.
It's okay.
March 31st. This year. So, David, our firstborn son over here, blew up her Dottie's obituary like this, and I had it laminated. And,
it's a beautiful picture.
So,
the bud is sad, but the flower is sweet.
Bud may have a bitter taste. We came back to Fireside every year through 1964. We had 4 children by then. David, Danny was now applying for UPL. Kathy, who lives up in Thornton, New Hampshire, up near the Franklin, and John, who lives in New Jersey. Brought them all back here. They all came to campus here. And then we moved back to Massachusetts and moved to Tennessee. I don't know where my story goes. I forget what I told the others. Does anyone here know what
You, yeah, your favorite camp experience.
You are you okay with you camp?
Well, I'm not a poet.
No?
But
Okay.
I've tried to write a lot of poetry just to express my grief. I don't know if I can say this to you or not, but I'll try.
That's fine, whatever you feel comfortable with.
It concerns Fireside. I've been working on this for so long, I can't tell you, but at college's year end, we met at Fireside. Before we talked, I took the problem I have is that so many well-meaning people tell me that Dottie is, as they say, better off. She's in a better place. No one has to persuade me that Dottie is what Paul was referring to when he said, absent from the body, present with the Lord. And what John said in Revelation when he said, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord. I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of that. That doesn't deal with my sadness. I know I might get through this, but it's too scratchy. Before we talked, I took one look and dreamed of our own Fireside. You were not coy or coquettish. You had a young girl.
There was a time when we came to places like this.
I'm not as coy. I can't go on with that. That first night at Fireside, I spoke at Fireball. Once upon the beginning of time, there was God. Only God, I said. We walked back to the camp arm in arm. And I was more assured and less afraid. I'll stop there.
Okay.
So, that was the beginning of my experience here. But that night, I was counselor of boys in that cabin across the road. And when I was sure that everyone was tucked in bed in their cabins, I took the blanket off my bed and went up, came over this side and went up the hill. And you know, out on the grass, there's a rise, and I knelt there. Wrapped in that blanket and prayed most of the night. So we were married a year later.
Wow.
Dottie went back to college with me in Washington. We finished college and came back. I married, came back here and married. And then brought our children to Fireside over here through 1964.
Wow. 10 years.
This is the first time we've been back since 1964, I'm sure. But David invited me up to visit with him in Massachusetts. and I wanted to get here before I go back to Tennessee tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And the funeral home director says that we will have the reserve marker there when I get that to install over our two graves. So,
Hard day, I bet.
but I did want to be here to see this place where I first met that. Oh, right. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'm just running.
Oh, yeah, that's right, we did, so. It would be 2 after. That's my alarm.